everyone. Call this meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Can you say a prayer, please? Yes.
Today, very thankful for all that you do for us. Heavenly Father, continue to bless us. Continue to bless us. Give us good health and healing, love and understanding. Heavenly Father, give us good directions. Heavenly Father, reach out to those in need. Bless our children and our elders. Thank you for this day that you've given us.
Okay, we have the agenda. Are there any additions or changes?
Chairman, I have one addition. I have the index strategy session in Green Bay in a couple weeks, and I originally didn't put it on the agenda because I thought President Mayor from that nation would be taken over by them, but since they haven't confirmed with me yet, I still make the intentions of going to that until President Mayor assumes official capacity for the sheriff and
Okay, what was that conference or what meeting?
It's the Medicare, Medicaid Policy Reform Committee. I'm the chair of it, and it's the NIHB Technical Advisory Group to the CMS ETAG.
Okay, you have a date?
The week of March. It is the week of March 18th in Green Bay, Wisconsin, hosted by the United Nations. And this is a reimbursable trip from CMS.
Okay, Tori. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one other addition here. We have a resolution from the planning department.
Are these under new business?
Probably council items. Then motion and second to adopt the agenda as amended. Discussion? Any objections? No objection, the motion passed 7-0-0. Showing Tori on the road.
Can I vote for that?
Yeah, I included you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, reading of the minutes, February 21st, 2019.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of that meeting. I wasn't here, but it's just a one-page ordinance. I move it.
Second.
Then, a motion and a second to approve the minutes of February 21st, 2019, general council. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0. Reading of the minutes, February 21st, 2019, mid-monthly meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Then motion and seconded to approve the minutes of February 21st, 2019, mid-monthly meeting. Discussion? Any objections? Call for vote in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I abstain.
Okay. 5 yes, no? Abstention? 2.
One, please.
Motion passed 5-0. Reading of the minutes, February 27, 2019, treasurer's meeting.
I'll move to approve, Mr. Chair. Second.
Then motion second to approve the minutes, February 27, 2019, treasurer's meeting. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0. Ratify 5 signature, there's none. New business, Frederick's People and Morgan, LL.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yep, I'm gonna have Tyler Smith, he's our law clerk and hopefully a future associate in the firm, pass out some bios of everybody that's gonna be involved with the new firm. Within the past couple of weeks, the tribe received a letter indicating that as of April 1st, what is now Frederick's Peoples and Morgan will no longer be Frederick's Peoples and Morgan. They'll still be Frederick's Peoples. Still be Frederick's Peoples, and I think it'll be now Patterson, Frederick's Peoples and Patterson. And there's a new law firm being formed called Big Fire Law and Policy Group. And that the personnel in that organization will be myself, Danelle Smith, Tyler, and the attorneys in the Omaha office, and Lance Morgan as well. This firm has always been an idea. I mean, personally, I've always toyed with the idea of being an owner in my own 100% Indian-owned firms, which is what this will be. And there was some reorganization going on at Frederick's Peoples and Morgan, and they chose to promote the non-Indians over the Indians, basically, especially those in the Nebraska office. And so we thought this was as good a time as any to go forward and form our own firm. And again, like I said, it's 100% Indian owned. Everybody that's a partner in it are tribal members, myself, Makutere, Chippewa, Danelle, Winnebago, Lance, Winnebago, Burton Warrington, He, will be in Wisconsin, but he's Prairie Band, Potawatomi, Menominee, and Ho-Chunk. I believe is enrolled with Prairie Band though. Nicole Ducheneau, she's Cheyenne River, and Leonica Charging from Mandan Hidatsa, River. We all have experience in different parts of tribal governance. Some of us, like myself, for instance, most of my experience has been as in-house counsel for Ho-Chunk Nation and for the Mohegan tribe. And I've been here for 4.5 years, so aside from that, it's been all in-house, and so I've been practicing almost 25 years. But there's also a lot of, Nicole Ducheneau is a litigator. You know, she's representing Cheyenne River in the oil disputes, what? Yeah, the no DAPL. Otherwise, a lot of our experience is also in economic development. Some of you know that, you know, we do some work for Ho-Chunk Inc. as well, and we just recently completed something called a new market tax credit. I believe I sent you a memo about it because I've been asked for information about what that entailed. But it you know, it saved almost $2 million, you know, to do all this development that's happening in Ho-Chunk Village. But yeah, so as of April 1st, this new firm will be starting. So in the letter that we sent to you, you know, clearly the clients have the option of who they want to represent them. And that's completely up to you. So you can choose to stay with Frederick Peebles and, you know, have a new attorney assigned to you. You can choose to, you know, use the attorneys that have been working with you and go with Big Fire, or you can choose to, you know, RFP and pick somebody entirely different. You know, that's completely your option. At this point, does anyone have any questions about, you know, this change?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna be in support of keeping, this new, law firm. I do have a concern, it's not a concern. You showed Danelle as partner. At this point, she's not with the firm though.
No, that's correct. She'll be part of, or like inactive with the firm. She'll be still working with WCHS, either until her contractor's out or until, you know, she's done doing that. I don't know if that will be extended, you know, I don't know what her specific plans are with the hospital. But if she chooses to stop doing that, then she will join the firm.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about Tyler.
Okay, Tyler is a Winnebago, or do you wanna talk about?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
So, Tyler Smith, I'm a Winnebago tribal member. My father's Troy Smith, mother's Jill Smith. Graduated from law school a couple of years ago, and I just took the bar again last week. So feel good about it, and hopefully pass. And I'm a law clerk right now, so I do some things for Sheila, some legal things, and she checks them over. And then if I pass the bar, I'll be a full attorney, and then I'll, you know, whatever you guys need, I can help with. So.
I saw Tyler grow up, and I sure am glad that he's in that capacity, and I'm glad for you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Tyler's been extremely helpful in the office. Otherwise, I'd be the only one there, and he's very capable. You know, he's getting trained on how to do all kinds of legal work. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to him being an associate attorney
Then I
and
just
taking
wanna
over
say,
these projects.
You know, I went to law school with the intention of representing tribes and things like that, and so I know a lot of people, they have to wait a while in their career to get to this position of representing their own tribe. So this is something that I would really like to be able to represent my own tribe in legal matters. So hopefully you guys take us on.
Sheila,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought Frederick's Peebles in Oregon was a Native American firm.
Not every one of the equity partners is a Native American, so it's not 100% Native owned. They do practice mainly Native American law though, and mostly represent tribes.
Why the change, but, and then,
everybody, well, lawyers and attorneys are the same, it's just different words for
One
the
goes to
same
court
thing.
and one don't go, is that correct?
No, they're the same.
I was told that.
I mean, people might think that, but I call myself a lawyer or an attorney. And occasionally I will go to court, but I don't do it that often.
All right.
So what is it you're requesting of us? To go with Big Fire Law and Policy Group?
Well, clearly that's my, would be my preference, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna be part of it, but, I'm also stating that it's your decision, I can't,
Okay,
You're,
so what does
dictate
that
what-
mean? We have to do a new contract with this new company or this new law firm?
yes, there would have to be a new contract done. At this point, we've talked about it, and the fees at this point wouldn't change. We would keep the same fees that your current contract has. If you
And is that nothing?
No.
Right now it is, right this second. So we would wanna keep that the same. Those are good competitive rates. And another option, just to throw it out there, to keep things, if you wanted to do an RFP, I know a lot of tribal governments do that when they hire attorneys, would be, in order to smooth the transition, would be to, work with Big Fire, since the attorneys that are in Big Fire are the ones that have done all your work thus
Anyway.
far. Just to smooth it over, and then go, if you wanted to go through an RFP process, you could do that, but just in order to make things run more smoothly, that's an option as well.
What would you consider Fredericks and Peebles and Morgan, what tier are they? Tier ranking?
As far as law firms go?
Yeah.
I'd say they're up there if we're talking about Indian law.
Indian law, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say?
Well, depending on what it is, they're probably tier one.
It's my turn.
And, okay, I'll let you know, sorry.
I guess you're correct, as far as the cost, affordability, what that is that gonna change, is that increase? And kinda knowing the ballpark, what we spent last year compared to, the services, and, is that gonna increase?
Well, we hope to, like I said, sorry, finish.
And the responsiveness, I look at, and the availability, those are important things that I would, look at, yeah.
Okay, those won't change, the fees won't change. We're still gonna have the office here in Winnebago, and then there'll be the office in Omaha, so we'll be here. I've been working with you as general counsel now for a year, took over when Danelle went to the hospital, and I've tried to be, maybe you don't feel that way when you're paying the bill sometimes, but I've tried to be conscious about spending, what fees cost, and, working with the tribe to try and keep, fees down. And that's where Tyler comes in too. Sometimes I have Tyler do work and then I just check it, because, we can bill Tyler for less. So, that's where that comes in handy, and I try to be conscious of that when I work with, especially with you, but with other tribes as well. And I don't see the responsiveness changing, we'll still be right here, right in the community. And again, we're familiar with the projects that you're working on, and we wouldn't have, any learning time or learning curve to, step into working with you.
Tori, do you have something to say?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Frank. I just wanted to, just say that I'm really proud of the tribal member attorneys and other Native attorneys that have taken this kind of professional step forward for themselves as kind of, I guess, advancing their career beyond what maybe the dominant white firm was gonna allow them to, and I'm in support of keeping, our same attorneys, and my first concern was the continuity of legal work and what that would look like if we had to transfer everything that we've been working on and have a learning curve with a new counsel, general counsel, or perhaps even a firm. And I just think that there's value in sticking with our own. And additionally, I don't think we're going to get a better rate than from any other firm. I don't think anybody will care or treat us with the same attention that some of our very own tribal members have and other councils. So I just wanted to make that point that for me, it's about the continuity of the legal work and the relationships that we've built with these attorneys or legal counsel. And I'm also really happy to see that Tyler is a part of this opportunity because he's just starting out his career and he's kind of rubbing shoulders with some of the brightest in Indian country. And my last comment that just kind of annoys me is that I feel like FPM built their Indian law practice probably on Lance Morgan's back, and the tribes are going to come to the reputable attorneys that are starting this new firm, and they're not going to stay loyal to these non-native gentlemen that are passing over our own. So, and I also think that the other tribes that some of these attorneys have relationships with are going to come to Big Fire. So I just want to make sure that we're amongst that client list, and I'm in support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tori. Just for the information for the audience that's viewing this, I'll read the three options so we know what we're talking about. The first option is, I wish to be represented by the attorneys who are now handling my legal matters, who will be joining Big Fire, and authorize the transfer of all paper and electronic files, including emails, to her or him at the law firm of Big Fire Law and Policy Group, LLP. Second option, I wish to be represented by the law firm currently named Fredericks People Morgan, LLP, and desire to continue representation and to assign new attorney to handle my matters. Third option, I will retain new counsel and will have them contact the law firm currently named Fredericks People and Morgan, LLP, to transfer all paper and electronic files to new counsel. So those are the three options that Sheila provided for us.
I feel comfortable, with that transition to Big Fire, just because of their knowledge of our ongoing efforts. With our land, returning the land from the Corps of Engineers, went to meetings with Kurt and Janelle and Joe Messino, reviewed all of those old documents, and also with the lawsuit with the tobacco rate and distribution of the when they had the press conference, she handled herself eloquently and professionally, and then that transition.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to see us go with option number one. I really feel that Fredericks and Peebles needed Morgan a heck of a lot more than Morgan needed Peebles and Frederick. And I believe it's a no-brainer to go with option number one. And I make a motion that we do that, Mr. Chair.
Second. I go Peebles.
There's been a motion and a second to go with option one for Big Fire Law and Policy Group, LLP. Discussion? Go ahead.
You mentioned, it was mentioned continuity, that's all, that's good. I want to get the best for us. And, there's other tribal members out there that practice, and to be fair, you know, and I guess competitiveness, meaning bidding, getting the best price. The days when the tribe attorney, we had Dorsey, Whitney, and they were charged, were very prestigious, very high tier in the legal world, as you're aware, some of you are aware. But we got out of that contract and went with people like this, but it didn't save us any money, you know, which was, that was it was supposed to, but it didn't save the tribe any money. You know, and knowing the figure, I don't know if the treasurer has that information, or the CFO, what it cost us last year. You know, this magnitude, we need to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck. You know, nothing against his people, it's just how we do business. You know, and that's what I would stress. There's nothing wrong with the RFP. You know, if this pans out where this firm is the best out of what was proposed and put out there, then so be it. At least we did our diligent work, you know, and it was a fair process to all of that. You know, I could easily go with that, that's no problem, but it's a matter of, there's a lot of money that's going out here to represent the tribe. Now, I don't say that in a derogatory way. They've done a good job in my feelings, you know, and but again, it's just doing due diligence here. We've done that, and a couple of constituents approached me on that the last time, and just when we renewed the contract of Frederick's people in Morgan. So you guys should have opened that up for RFP for other people, other firms. You know, so I'm just putting this out there, letting the people hear that out there, people in the audience, and tribal member, or the councilman, I mean. So I just bring that to light and say that.
Sheila, I would assume that if we went with option 3, Big Fire would certainly propose something.
Yes, we would. If we were invited to do so, yes, we would.
Well, it'd be open, you know. I don't know who had to invite you.
Some places, it just depends on how you do it. Some places will invite specific vendors, and some leave it open, so just how you do it.
Okay, come up here with that one. Tyler, can you move that mic over to the podium? Tyler?
Good morning. As a tribal member, I think it should have been opened up for discussion for us. I like the idea that what Curtis said, for the reason too, on the other hand, is it's a conflict of interest. Because we need that representative in our tribe who's gonna be not one-sided, but it's gonna be open-minded and like, you know, they're not trying to say, oh no, HCI is like this, you know, we're gonna need someone there who's, I don't know what that word would be, like the middle person, not taking sides, that's very knowledgeable, and I know the tribe is, don't have that much money, and, but we need the best. We're kinda in a bad situation from what I see financially. So we need a good representation of that. So that's just my take on it.
Any other discussion?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm along with Tori, and I'm very proud of what these guys are doing here. And along with Kenny, I'm 100% supportive in our option number 1 here. I mean, to me, they've already proven that their best interest is to support us. Who else we could find? We spend more time looking around for it. I don't think we're gonna find it. That's all I have to
motion second to have Big Fire Law and Policy Group, LLP. Any objections?
Subject.
Call for vote. Favor? 1, 2,
Aye.
3, 4, 5. No?
No.
I voted aye.
3. No abstentions. Motion carried 5-3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, well, what I'm gonna ask for is you said that the cost would be the same as before. We can receive a general cost for the tribe. Spent well over, well over $1 million on attorney fees. And, that includes the entire budget. And, I used an example a few months ago. One phone call cost us $150. And, you're working for the tribe. Tyler's part of the tribe, he's now part of the tribe. Nance is part of the tribe. And, I believe that we should be working together. And, $150, that's why I haven't called you very much. And, I think that we should at least get some idea, how much it's gonna cost us for the year.
I would propose, is renegotiating that, because that was Frederick's, Peoples, and Morgan's price. Now, the price of Big Fire hasn't been determined yet. You said the same, but we're talking about the tribe, I mean, we need to look at that as well. Like
Okay.
he was saying.
We can do that.
Franco, on comment. I support you guys, and I thank you, and I think you did a good job, good work for us. I don't know if I'm correct, I just didn't see the founding paperwork for the group, policy group. I guess I'd like to see that, I would have liked to seen that. The founding paperwork, the organizations, how you guys, what's gonna happen. And I just have a concern that, it's just a concern that I don't believe it, I don't know if it's a fallout from the ATF raid, maybe this is why it's going, I don't know. My concern.
Let me ask you, Sheila, one more thing. Whereas we don't know yet, but you probably already know, how you can handle conflict resolution. If it pertains to HCI, how would that be handled?
The way conflict is handled, sometimes even perceived conflict, whether there is one or not, you can get around conflict by disclosure and a waiver signature. I believe that's what FPM did with HCI in the past. And then, in other places that I've worked, when there's a perceived conflict too, then it doesn't necessarily disqualify the firm as long as there's a disclosure, and then it's called like walling off, like you wall off that person and they don't work on anything where there might be a conflict. I mean, there are ways to handle it, but we just have to disclose to the client how we're doing it, and they have to agree with it.
I'm not clear with that, Sheila.
Like, do you want me to explain? I mean,
Okay.
we all have to follow a rule of ethics. Each state has, what the different rules that attorneys and law firms have to follow. So if you have somebody in your firm that might be conflicted out of issue, maybe they're related, maybe it's an issue they worked on, you know, for somebody else or something like that. You know, again, up to the client, but they can disqualify the whole firm, or they can decide to work with the firm as long as the conflict has been disclosed to the client, like they know about it. And then they sign a waiver that they're okay with, you know, everybody in the firm or specific people in the firm working on it, and that the firm has to agree to, not have the person that has the conflict or persons work on, you know, specific project. Right, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have asked for a clear picture on how this, what we're discussing right now, how this will play out, so that it's clear to all of us here, sitting here, and our tribal membership we serve, how this is gonna work, because you can have influence in a lot of the decisions that are being made with this position. And I asked Mr. Morgan for a clear definition on this, and he did send me an email, and it's one sentence, and in essence he's saying that I have never billed HCI, nor have I ever billed the tribe in anything that I've ever done, which is fine. That's a good thing. It's a benefit to the tribe. That's not the issue. And it's not a real huge concern. I'm sure that this could be alleviated if it was clear and concise on his end of things, on how that, what his role will be as the CEO of HCI, and then representing this law firm. Okay? Now, a lot of the constituency that they have concerns, and this, if you could lay those qualms to rest, it's to your benefit. So I give you that for food for thought. That's all I have.
Okay, anything else?
You know, in considering, you know, our lawyers, you know, we're real close to having land returned to us on the Iowa side, 1,200 acres. You know, we're so close. They had a bill introduced on January 3rd, but because of the political situation with one of the congressional representatives, you know, we had to make a trip to Washington to try to clarify all of these issues. And for us to change in the middle of the stream where we're so close to reaching our goal of a lawsuit that was filed way back in 1970, you know, when the Corps condemned the tribe's land, and Louis and the other council members at that time decided to sue the Corps. And eventually they were successful in having the land where the casino sits returned to us. But there was another parcel of land that was ruled, it was unjustifiably taken, but because the tribe had an appeal within a time frame, they let it stand, and it's in the hands of the government. And so when we took this up again and started working with the congressional people and the Corps of Engineers, the state of Iowa, and all of these things, so then we've come a long way for having a new attorney that has knows not the history of all the legal action that has taken place up to this time. And you have to go to each one of those government offices in Washington, D.C. and to present your findings to them. Not sometimes you talk to the congressman, and sometimes you talk to the head of staff, the chief of staff, that you're trying to bring them up to speed and tell our story to them, so we can gain their support, our effort to have that land returned to us. And so all of these matters, and then some of the things that are going on in the state of Iowa, you know, with, off-track betting, and then plus our all of the issues over there, where we try to maintain and be in compliance of our compact. So like I said, that's why I feel comfortable even sticking with this transition to big fire.
I just need to alert the council too that, we have procurement policies for services. And, those policies state that we need to have 3 quotes. So if any of the membership, wishes to contest this action, then we have to listen to it. We have the policies on this side here, and we sidetrack the policies. So just wanna put the council on route. Okay, thank you, Sheila.
Hey, Frank, thank you for, sharing that with us, but I didn't see, free quotes when you guys hired Cara Hara.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sheila. Okay, new business number 2, Winnebago Public School Academy presentation. Who's the lead singer?
My name is Jamie Pixler. I am the academy teacher, or one of the academy teachers at Winnebago Public Schools. I brought the 10th grade academy class with us. They're currently in Indigenous Studies. And so they're learning about how Tribal Council works and how they can be a part of it. And they are also going to California this year to learn more about Native cultures this year. In the past, Tribal Council has granted them $200 gift cards to help with some of the expenses related with the trip. We do cover the entire trip cost through the Winnebago Public Schools Foundation. So the airfare, travel expenses, tips, all of those things are covered. However, there are some things that the students need, such as sometimes they need dress clothes, sometimes they need suitcases, travel, toiletries, things like that. And so the gift cards have been to offset those costs for the students and the families. In the past, it's been a parent that's come and requested from Tribal Council for the gift cards. However, this year we felt it's for the students, and we're trying to teach the students to present more and to take more of an active role in tribal government. And so they are actually going to be presenting to you on what they have learned on these trips, the value of the trips, and why the gift cards are important for them and their families. So is there somewhere where I can just hook up a laptop for a visual presentation? They'll be speaking, so. Can I move the microphone over the podium? We ask that you bear with us a little bit. This is their first ever public presentation, so some of them are a little sketchy.
While he's getting that set up, I would like, you talked about items required. Shouldn't they have a group church and a cone anyway?
Yeah, many of those things are. This is just our travel list, what we tell them that they have to bring. Some of these things they should have, yes.
You're not including that as an
No,
expense?
no.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, before you get started,
Yes.
can you have each one of them introduce themselves?
They're each gonna present, so when they come, can they introduce themselves when it's their
They're
turn?
gonna, each one's gonna present?
Mm-hmm. Each one's
Okay.
gonna do a short piece of this.
Does anybody know where the first slide is?
Do you want me to run it?
Should that be easier?
So introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Jacoby Mahan, and what I learned in Chicago is that we see our fellow classmates in the classroom every day, but on these trips we get to learn more about each other and get to become closer. Some of the classmates that I didn't hang out with suddenly became my friends. We got to learn about some great cultural history. At the different museums, we got to see old tribal artifacts. My classmates and I got to experience a lot of different clothing and artwork. It was a fun and educational experience. We also learned how to get around in a big city. We're not used to a big city such as Chicago. On the trip, we learned how to get around the big city and how to stay safe in the big city. The trip gives us a great experience and teaches us how to make it in the big city.
Hello, my name is Toby Bassett, and this is the DC trip. The DC trip was the second trip in the academy and probably the most educational. This trip was full of museums, monuments, and the streets were engraved with history. We got to learn about the history of why the government runs the way it does, and new things like how technology and science is changing the world as we know it today. I learned a lot in DC, and here's just some of the things I learned. During our visit to the Pentagon, we had a continuation of the 9/11 story. It wasn't just the Twin Towers that were hit on that tragic day. A plane dramatically changed history by hitting the Pentagon on 9/11. We were fortunate enough to enter the Pentagon and witness the area where the plane hit. Even before we went inside, there was a memorial outside. There was this Indian museum we went to, and it had artifacts of the tribe here, and I thought that was pretty cool. And overall, the Washington, D.C. trip has been the most educational trip, but it also bonded our class together a little bit more. I believe this was a memorable trip, and I hope others can enjoy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Doxey, and this is one of my classmates' slide, but he couldn't attend today, so I'm taking over it. He did over the New York trip. In New York, we got to learn a lot. We got to experience the United Nations tour. The United Nations tour had the most significant events in recent history, from the adoption of a Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 to the summit in December 2000. That brought together about 150 heads of state and government. We got to go to the Statue of Liberty. A lot of people know about the Statue of Liberty. Not everybody gets to visit the Statue of Liberty. I'm happy that my classmates and I got to have the opportunity to visit and experience this wonderful site. The most memorable was probably the National September 11th Memorial and Museum. It was a tragic event in history, and I'm glad that I got to learn more about it. We were able to show our remembrance and honor to the nearly 3,000 people killed in the terror attacks of September 11th, 2001.
Hi, my name is Soraya George. I'm covering for Diane LaPointe today. And her question is, how did it make you closer to your classmates? At the beginning of 7th grade, I didn't know anyone in my class besides a couple of cousins and old friends. I wasn't too close to the ones that I knew, but I still knew them and was familiar with them. I never built a good relationship with anybody in my class until we started going on field trips. The little field trips my class would take got me more and more familiar with my classmates every time we went on one. We went to New York or Chicago. I felt like I got super close to some of my classmates I wasn't too familiar with or never had any type of relationship with. Being with them for almost a week straight, all day, every day, really built a good friendship between us. Now I have some really cool friends that I never would have had without the field trips we went. I want to thank you guys for giving us the money and help that you do so we can go on these trips.
My name is Tatana McClellan, and I want to tell you a little bit how I feel these trips are going to impact my future. The more experiences I've had meeting new acquaintances has helped to take away some of my apprehension. I've noticed my classmates and I have become better at talking to new people when we have gone away to speech meets, one-act plays, and away sports games. I now find it easier to talk to strangers. I also now have more confidence to participate in new unknown adventures. The trips have made us more comfortable about leaving the reservation for college. I now know how to get around in big cities using the subways and all about the variety of experiences that can happen while there. And the most important thing is knowing that my classmates and I will be successful in whatever we do.
You already know my name, Janae Doxy. I got the slide of a few cultural experiences, and I picked the Washington D.C. trip because it was more evolved around everything that happened in the United States and overseas. And I picked the monument tour. Can you go to the next slide? The few I picked was the Washington Monument, the Vietnam Wall, and the Korean War Memorial. In the beginning of the school year, or in the middle, we start researching over the U.S. history, and we knew we were gonna go see the Vietnam Wall, so we researched we just researched random soldiers that fought in it. So then we made papers and stuff for them, and we put all their information and everything we knew, and then as soon as we got to this memorial, this tour, we went to go to the wall and we had to find all of the names that we picked. And when we found the spot, we put our things by it, along with all of the information we found. After we did that, we walked over, and that's when we seen the Korean War Memorial, and it had more names of the people that went. I picked this because out of all of the trips I went to, this is the one I remember the most because I have family members that have fought in the war before. Thank you.
Did any of you research anybody from Winnebago?
I couldn't find it.
In the Vietnam Wall, there's Anthony Lemire, and then Matthew Wolf.
Yeah, I think someone did. I think Charlie did that. Charlie did that.
My name is Dries Bass, and what we learned from traveling and stuff. Learning stuff, it's like basketball. You can read and watch movies on how to play, but you don't learn much from sitting down and just watching. When you're actually out there on the court, sweating, bleeding, and in pain, and working on getting yourself better, you learn more from experience hands-on and actually practicing the sport. I found the school by idea education. When students are actively involved in applying course content to answer questions, solve problems, and other activities beyond just receiving content, learning can improve as well as motivation from learning. And people learn better hands-on knowledge to navigate airports and transportation, and then get used to not being close to home, so like not feeling homesick when you're far. And patience while at an airport. So I feel like experiencing traveling in person is better than just reading. Thank you.
My question is, what do I hope to learn in California? I hope to aspire to learn other Native American cultures. I look forward to the chance to explore a new climate and weather. What opportunities they have there instead of the opportunities we have here. To see the Saboba style of celebrations and regalia of the tribes. To explore how they have adjusted to the climate of the desert. I would like to learn what life was like living in the West Coast area. This will also be the first time I've been going to the ocean instead of seeing it on movies, documentaries, and etc. To go deep fishing. I have only been to the river to go fishing. To spend more time with students the same age as I am. I am also looking forward to spending some time on the reservation. This is what I hope to see and learn in California. I'm really excited.
Your name.
Oh, sorry, George.
Hello, my name is Angel Frenchman. My question was, what is the value of the Academy trips to you? These Academy trips took me to New York and Chicago. Some people may never experience this. They let me experience the bustling and quick pace of cities rather than our slow and calm town of Winnebago. I was able to see things in person rather than on a TV screen, like the Statue of Liberty or the Navy Pier, all that stuff. It also took me places that I used to fear because of movies that portrayed them as a lot of crime, it looks dangerous. But as soon as I went there, I felt really calm, and I didn't see all those things that scared me, so it overcame my fear of big cities. These amazing journeys around the United States allowed me to see more of the country and diversity. These trips not only gave me an insight into other worlds, but a desire to experience this myself, and I know this can only be accomplished by good education of the Academy, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Joseph Redhorn, and I have how the tribal council financially helped us prepare for our trips. We've been able to travel to new places to experience new things. Dress clothes we bought allowed us to go to special occasions such as breakfast with the senators and stuff like that. It's helped us buy clothes even when maybe some of us didn't have much. We've been able to have new experiences with our fellow classmates and friends. The trips we've taken were possible because of your help. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that most of you know me. I am Samantha George. Said I'm pretty sure most of you know me. I am Samantha Little George.
Oh.
Mine was experiences that we could not have experienced otherwise. Well, we have all experienced so many things on the trips that unfortunately I will only be able to speak about a few. Some of us were given different choices, but the one thing we all had in common was that it was experiences that we would have never been able to do back on the reservation. For one, in New York, we were able to see the Statue of Liberty and go up inside of the statue. So that we can do that, which I'm pretty sure most of us did. We got to learn more about our Native history by going to the National Museum of American Indian. Well, in DC, my group was very lucky that Mr. Mackling, who is a former Marine, we were able to, he had a very good friend who was able to get us inside of the Pentagon. Because the other groups in the academy academy weren't able to go inside of it. So we got to tour it. We also got a tour of the part of the building where some of our nation's most important people had their offices. So like generals and military people, their offices and whatnot. Although our trips were filled with many educational experiences, we all had time to enjoy each place. We did have to learn mostly, but we all had fun either way. So that one is when we were eating, I don't remember which restaurant. That wasn't Bubba Gums. It was one of the restaurants. We were all having fun. We were pretty sure like most of us were laughing and whatnot. And this picture over here is when we were in the Pentagon, next to the office, which is on the left of everybody. We took a picture in front of the symbols. And that is all of us. Mackling is the one on the far left in the back. Thank you.
Okay, this was the items needed, which many of you, which you have a copy of. So in the past, Tribal Council has offered gift cards. Their $200 gift cards is what we've been receiving. For the Chicago trip this year, we have 11 students going. Those are 9th grade Academy students. California, there are 11 students attending that are these fine folk, plus the additional 2 that were not able to make it today. New York, we have 16 students traveling to New York this year. It's a total of 38 students traveling. So the request is for $7,600 in gift cards, one for the $200 card for each student. That is all we had.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve what?
Amount shown here of $7,600 in gift cards, so that these students can travel abroad and learn more.
Mr. Treasurer, do you have the money?
We're gonna pull that CFO in the back there. Where can we pull this from to pay for this?
Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Jim? Jim, you second?
Yeah.
Okay. Been a motion, second, discussion?
Can we?
Council donations, yeah. There should be enough budget in there to do that.
Pardon?
Council donation budget line, there should be enough money in there to handle that. We've done this in the past, so we use the prior numbers.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, you still there, Troy?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I vote yes.
Okay. No objections, motion passed 8-0-0.
I just have one comment. Be proud of yourself. Don't be real shy when you say your name. Be proud of who you are. Most of you guys, I had to lean over and ask your instructor, because you're real shy about your name.
Now, some of us old guys, we have a tough time.
They're great
I
kids.
turned
You're
it
gonna
up
hear
all-
about them one day.
I haven't turned up all the way.
You guys going to California?
They're going to California this year.
Years ago, when they had a government program, it was called relocation. A lot of tribal members went to California. Former Chairman Kenny Ballard used to live in Cucamonga. Cucamonga, California.
They're teachers from, she is enrolled Saboba Luceño tribe out there. And so she is taking them to her reservation. And they're gonna go to the first BIA school out there, and attend school for the day with the students there and learn more about their culture, how they do things, different types of regalia foods, things like that. There's an ocean day and there's some fun stuff in there, but it's definitely a lot more of learning about different tribal cultures. They've wanted to learn more about the tribes of the Southwest.
What part of California are you going to?
They are going to Saboba Reservation. It's outside of Ontario.
Ma'am,
Canada.
can you go to the mic?
Oh, sorry.
Ontario. Down around Ontario?
Yeah, they are actually about 2 hours outside of San Diego. I've never been to California, to be honest, in fair disclosure, full disclosure. But it's Mrs. Gant that's taken them down there, and that's where she's from, and her home and her parents still live out there.
Cucamonga's right next door to Ontario.
Oh.
That's why when you said Ontario, I listened.
Yeah, the only Ontario I'd ever heard of was Canada before, so she's teaching me too. So.
Mr. Chair, before these young men and women leave, I would like to offer up some words of encouragement to them. I thank you for coming over here and then doing your introductions and then your presentations. And I was kind of whispering in the chair's ear that at some point, it's going to be you. You're going to be the ones that are going to be taking care of me when I get to a certain age of retirement, if I ever get there. But I want to encourage you to continue to learn as much as you can and be proud of who you are and where you come from. Because you not only represent yourself and your own household, but you represent the whole tribe wherever you go, like that. And those were the kind of words that were expressed to me when I was your age, like that, from my elders. And some of them, they're sitting here, like that. So I just want to kind of pass that along to you, so when it's your turn, like that everything goes good for you. So I just want to encourage you that way.
Then thank you, Al, for the money.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Didn't pay any good. That would sound a lot better than us.
Okay, number 3, Ron Noor.
Good morning.
Can you hear me? All right, I did a report on the status of several projects that we're working on right now, and projects that we have upcoming in the next construction season. And some of these projects are action request type projects that I want to spend a little bit more time on. If you guys have a copy of the status report, I'm just going to kind of briefly go through it, and there's a couple of the projects that I'm going to request some action on.
Status report, you mean this one here?
This one right here. Yep, that's it. Okay, we have a booster station project that we're replacing out east of town. It's kind of up on to the end of that cul-de-sac up by Dave Carnes's. That the existing water system booster station that's up there is an underground. It's like a vault type booster station. We're replacing that with a new system that's above ground, and then it would be OSHA compliant instead of one that's down in the ground, which is not OSHA compliant. That's about a $99,000. That's IHS's estimate on that one. The other project that we actually bid, we bid both of these projects about a month ago. The East Booster Station project came in overbid for over the amount for what IHS had
funded for the project, or what their estimate was, so we're actually gonna rebid that project. The other project that we had bid at the time was the Thunderway booster station replacement, and that's the booster station that's out kind of on the, just where the curve starts out by, it's kind of by just across the street from Merle Whitewaters, I think. That project was bid. Olson Plumbing was the low bidder on that project, and we have a recommendation from Indian Health Service and a notice of funding availability for that project. So that project was advertised through Indian Health Service, and I think that there's documentation on there. There was multiple contractors that were contacted, and we did a sealed bid opening, advertisement sealed bid opening for that project. And I think maybe a couple council members maybe sit in on that one. I'm requesting approval for Olson Plumbing to award that contract. It's for $139,000, I think.
Need a resolution or just approval?
Say again, Joe?
You need a resolution or approval?
Just approval.
Okay.
Just a motion type approval.
Second. Approve contract for Olson Plumbing.
Second.
Was that for 139?
Yeah, it's
140.
that was the estimate, I think, on it. I think it was,
Been a motion, second, to approve the contract for Olson Plumbing in the amount of 140, is that correct, Rob?
it's 137 and 137, 620.
Okay. Noted. Discussion?
What's the timeline on that?
He's getting ready to order materials on it, and I think it's either a 90 or 120 day completion date on it. So it'll be done this summer, for sure. I can look and see what the completion date is on it. I think it's 90 working days.
So, with all things considered, like rain days and if he goes beyond that.
If he goes beyond that, he has to have justification for why he didn't get it completed. And it would, rain days is one on a booster station. It's usually, pretty minimal. You don't see too much. If it's a big dirt project or something, there's more rain delays that would apply. But this one has, I think it has LDs or liquidated damages. I think it's $250 a day, I think, is what's in there.
Okay.
Okay, the next project is.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0. Okay.
Where's your?
You still there, Tori? Tori?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Breathe a little louder, because we have a tough time hearing. Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, the next project is a project that we've already had awarded, and this project is for, it's also an Indian Health Service project, and I think it's around $125,000, and it's a 6-inch water main interconnect from Ho-Chunk Village over to the St. Augustine's area. And the intent of it is to try and eliminate, or try to improve the water quality on both of those areas. Those areas are both, they're kind of isolated, and there's one main line that goes to them, so they're basically dead end type areas. So the sediment goes out there, and whatever sediment doesn't go out through the sinks and the faucet and the services basically lays in those lines. This should help water quality significantly in both of those. There's still going to be some issues out on the very ends and the points, but this should improve water quality and have less sediment in both of those systems. Next project, this project's already been awarded, and it's for around $750,000. And this project is for the replacement of all of the sanitary sewers that are within the Highway 77 corridor. And this project will go right ahead of the highway project that you guys have coming up for the new highway that's coming through town. So this is a pretty big project. It's a $750,000 project, so it's a big project. We got a lot of Indian Health Service projects coming up in the next year. We had another project that was, we just bid this project last Friday, and I think we had a couple council members that were present at that bid opening also. It was a sealed bid opening. We had bids from Siouxland Well, from Olson's, and from Roto-Rooter. Siouxland Well was the low bidder, and I'm requesting approval by motion for to contract with Siouxland Well Company.
I move it, Mr. Chair.
Second.
And motion second to award the contract to Siouxland Well for the individual sanitation project. Discussion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 7-0.
And that documentation on those bids and all the individual bid items are the one that's attached to, this is a letter that I always send up to Indian Health Service requesting approval. And we've gotten approval on it. This is the bid tab for engineer's estimate, Siouxland Well, Olson Plumbing, and Brown Underground, which is Roto-Rooter. This is all the information is right here.
What was the bid from Siouxland Well?
$93,064.75. $93,064.75. And we got a couple more IHS projects that are coming up that have not, the plans are not ready yet, but we are making repairs to the big standpipe that's out on the Thunderway project. I think we've got I think that's a 100,000 gallon standpipe that's out there. We're going to replace some of the glass panels on it, and there's $170,000 that IHS has estimated for that project. That project has not been bid yet, but it will this spring. And then another water storage tank replacement is the tank that's out to the powwow grounds, and that's a 50,000 gallon harvestor type reservoir. That tank is about shot. I don't know how old it is, but it's one of those old glass line harvestors, and we've had to go out there. Facilities has gone out there within the last 6 months or so and basically ran screws into the metal panels just to secure it, to try and minimize the leaking in it, because it's rusted through. Like some of the where the fasteners are rusted through. So we've been patching on that tank, trying to get by. That's an expensive tank, and what we're going to do is we're going to keep the tank that's there, the old tank that's there, in service while we're building the new tank just up from it to the north of it. There's just a little bit of tree removal that's going to happen, and that one has not been bid yet. But I'm going to see if Roads Department can do the tree removal on it, and a little bit of, see if there's some grading we can do on it also. But that's $469,000 project. So, and keep in mind, we do get a 3% construction tax on all the IHS work. So,
you know, having said that, I glanced through there real quick, and there's over $22 million worth of work.
Two million.
There's 6 million right here
Which one are you looking at?
in
Ken?
the Nebraska Department of Roads paving.
Oh, if you count,
I'm counting all the projects that are gonna be done in this community.
there's, just on the Nebraska Department of Roads project, I think it was around 6.8 million.
Yeah, it shows it right here.
So 3% of that is 200,000.
But just
So
above that, you have-
we are gonna have some construction tax revenue this year.
But just above that, you have 1.3 million, and just below that, you have another $1.8 million project. Should be some employment for our people around here this year, huh?
Should be a good year, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on.
No community this small that has that kind of money coming in.
The other one is, the Ho-Chunk Village project, or Ho-Chunk Village 2.0 project, that, Ho-Chunk has gone through the planning portion of that project, and they have an engineering company out of Omaha, it's HDR, it's a huge engineering and architectural company that's done some of the preliminary planning, and they've also put together plans for the first phase of the water and sewer. And we've met with Indian Health Service a couple of times, because Indian Health Services should have some available funding this year. And we are trying to solicit some of IHS funding to pay for some of the water and sewer system out there. The sewer system is gonna require, after the first phase, about 70% of that site, the sewage is gonna gravity flow down to what's gonna have to be a lift station. And a lift station's probably $400,000 to $500,000 with the lift station and the force main to pump it back, just to pump it back into Ho-Chunk Village.
Is that gonna require a water tower?
At this time, they're not planning on a water tower. It's been discussed, but I've not talked to their HDR's engineer about that yet, because IHS has really not been involved in this, but for the first phase is not gonna require a water tower. The water tower would improve fire flows. So I think it's something that should be looked at. IHS usually, I don't think they can provide infrastructure for like safety and fire flow improvements. They can, if it helps with the water quality, which it could, then it can be justified through IHS.
So, Ron, I'm glad that you brought that up right there. We're looking at future expansion, and it's real important that we consider while we're doing this simultaneously, that conversations are had with the village as far as this pump house is concerned, and wells, and making sure that as we expand, that we're able to provide potable water to this expansion. And as you're well aware, the water quality that we get from the aquifer that we're currently getting our water from has secondary problems with discoloration and smell. And as a result of that, there's high chlorination that has to kill that. So there's an articulate that flows through there and it's killed off. But nonetheless, there's still high doses of chlorine in this water. What I'm saying is that when we go into this, that needs to be considered so that as we build, we're not forgetting this. So there has to be a portion or a percentage of money put toward that endeavor as well. So that's all I wanted to say.
I agree. I think that point that's well taken. We don't want to extend our water system or our gravity sewer system out beyond what treatment capabilities that we have. You know, I'm a licensed civil engineer, but I don't do evaluations of water treatment facilities or the sewer treatment facilities, that's Indian Health Services' responsibility. And it's my opinion that the engineering staff that IHS has up in Sioux City right now is as good as it's been in the last 25 years. And that's their responsibility. And when we do water and sewer improvements in the community now, we also go through the Nebraska Health and Human Services for permits. And part of that permit process is for the design engineer to, he signs a written statement saying that the treatment capacity is adequate for this additional expansion. But that's an excellent point. I'll bring that up to Indian Health Service. We're meeting with Indian Health Service tomorrow at 1 o'clock for our SDS meeting. So one of the projects we do annual meetings at sanitary deficiency system meetings. We do annual meetings usually the first part of March. We've been doing them for 20 some years. And what we do is we discuss any deficiencies that we have in a water or sewer system, and then also any improvements that can be made based on potential expansion to the system. So anybody interested in sitting in with Indian Health Service tomorrow, you can come up to, we've got a conference room up at our office at 1 o'clock tomorrow. I would encourage it. So that's something that'll come up, would be, the village is not real happy with the water treatment facility that we have over there. It's expensive to operate, and things have changed a lot. And I think that that system was put in. It's supposed to improve the secondary elements that Roland just mentioned, which would be like the iron and manganese and the calcium and manganese, magnesium. That those are all secondary. The way that the water is regulated, it's got primaries and it's got secondaries. The primary would be like arsenic and nitrates and even bacteria. That those are the ones that if you're not in compliance with those, your system has to be shut down, and you can't provide water if you're not in compliance with the primaries. The secondaries are, like Roland mentioned, they're the odor and discoloration and turbidity type issues that they're called secondaries, but they have the MCLs, or the maximum contaminant levels for the secondaries. They put an MCL on them, but they're recommendations only. And there's quite a few of the secondary elements that we exceed the MCL, but the water's still safe to drink. Sometimes it doesn't look that good, but it's still safe to drink.
Ron, remember when they first approved that water treatment facility, and then when they started drilling that well, then it started collapsing, so they had to put that on hold. So the one that they had was intended for Winnebago was down in Kansas, so then they designated that to some other project. And then but it had all of those things in it, to get those contaminants out of the water.
Yeah, that's what this system is.
The one that they put up here didn't.
Well, I think the one that you're probably talking about was it an RO type system? I think it was an RO type system, and they've got one over in Sac and Fox that is extremely expensive, even a lot more expensive to operate than this. And it worked on instead of like a gravity filter type system or a system pressure like this one. I think it worked on it was an RO system which is a pressure filter, and there's so much backwash and costs associated with that type of system. And I think that's why, Jim, I think that we wound up with this type of system, because I think it's a pretty sophisticated filtration system is what it is. And I think it's something we need to talk to Indian Health Service about tomorrow. Maybe the media in the filters needs to be replaced, because this one's probably 10 years old. Usually when I say 10, it's more than that, but, so, it's a good point though, but I think the reason they went with this one was it was supposed to be more cost effective to operate. And it took care of all of the primary MCLs.
Well, I get, and then, thank you, Ron, for, and also, your relationship with Indian Health Service, the amount of projects that were funded for, we're really grateful, because it's a benefit to the whole community.
Yeah.
And then the tribe, it sees, funding through, Region 7 out of Kansas City, through IHS.
Some of that comes through here, yeah.
And then, but, when we do that, then we secure the funding, we get the thing built, then we turn it over to the village. And then
Some of them.
we have them, MOA between the village and then the tribe, as far as the responsibility, the collection of the fees and stuff, like the town limits, then that's the responsibility for the fees and stuff goes to the village for collection, and then outside limits then goes to tribal facilities.
Since that was a year and a half ago, we finished those, well, we finished the construction of those master meters.
Yeah.
We put five master meters in. That just, we've got 5 master meters that are real close to the village, the corporate limits, and any water that goes outside those corporate limits or beyond those master meters is the responsibility. The infrastructure outside those is the responsibility of the tribes, and so are all of the customers that are outside those 5 master meters. The tribe is, tribal facilities is actually doing what I think is a pretty good job, and I'm not down there on a day-to-day basis, but I know that the collection rate has not been real good on some of those services in the past, and a lot of it was because it was just kind of whose jurisdiction it was in or whose responsibility it was in, and sometimes people didn't get billed, and sometimes they probably got billed from the tribe and the village. But I think the tribe's making a pretty good effort. I know Autumn's really involved in the software that's set up to try and improve that, and I think that's been getting better every month, the collection rates. All right, let's see what else.
Food distribution.
Yeah, the food distribution building, we've got there's a couple of little small things, but that project is substantially complete. We had, the contracting issue was a challenge, to say the least, on the first part of that project. We've got it done. We redid the loading dock on the back side of the building, and then we installed a new training kitchen kind of in the middle of the building, and then we redid the office situation. I don't know if you guys have probably all been in there, but the way the offices were set up in there was probably, I don't know, 8 little bitty cubicle type offices, and we split it into three bigger offices and a couple of bathrooms and kind of a waiting area. If you get a chance, go down and take a look at it once. IHS sanitary deficiency systems, tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Like I mentioned, if anybody wants to sit in on that, we'll talk about what deficiencies we have and what upcoming projects are, that we could potentially get funding for. And it's interesting that IHS has been telling us for the last, I think it was since the last budget was approved 6 months ago or whenever it was, that there's quite a bit of funding for Indian Health Service right now. And that's why, one of the reasons that we're seeing what they can come up with for the Ho Chunk Village 2.0, housing related. So we're seeing what they can do on that. And then a lot of these other projects, you know, we just went through like 6 projects, and those are all IHS funded. Some of it's EPA money, but most of it's just Indian Health Service dollars. Next project would be the Neil Walker Human Services Program renovation and addition project. They were able to get started on this project last fall, and you know, they've got the building, it's demoed or it's stripped down to the red iron, and we have the foundation is installed for a 40-foot by 70-foot steel frame addition to the south end of the building. What they've been waiting on is the time required to fabricate the steel frame for the 40 by 70 addition. That 40 by 70 addition is or was scheduled to be here this week. And I talked to HCI Construction last Friday, and he said they said it's still supposed to be scheduled for delivery this week, but they said that there was a couple of changes that they had made to it. There's a main frame that's 2 20-foot bays, you know, 40 foot split in half, you know, two 20-foot bays, and the main frame is supposed to be a clear span, and evidently what they are intending to ship to us has a intermediate post instead of a clear span over the whole 70 feet, and they were going to try and get some clarification on where that post is going to be at, if it has to have a post in it. So I haven't talked to anybody, I haven't had time yet today to talk to them about that. I guess what I want to look at, it's supposed to be clear, you know, clear span. If there's going to be a post, if we have some flexibility where that post can be in the middle, if it can be in a wall and it's concealed and it doesn't affect any of the other operations or geometrics of the building, we're going to take a look at it. I don't want to postpone it any more than it already is, but that's what we've been waiting on. I just found this out Friday that what was supposed to be clear span is supposed to now come in with a post in the middle. I don't know if that's clear, but it's supposed to be like a rigid frame that goes, you know, it spans the whole 70 feet with no supports in the middle.
Who made the change order?
I don't know yet. I don't know how it got changed or what. They just told me about this on Friday, and they said they were going to try and get some clarification on it. I've been busy this morning and I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody. Okay. Finally got a contract from HCI on that human services project, and the contract is for 1.8 million, and we've approved them to move forward on the project. And the way that we're moving forward on the project is what they had proposed to us was a design build type format, and you know, they've been moving forward on the project. They haven't been paid anything yet, but we got all their subcontractors. You know, the plans are just getting completed, and they have bids from all their subcontractors and all the numbers put together. And the way that the project is proposed is there's a 7% markup for their profit and overhead above all of the subcontractors and the self-perform work. And we did this type of construction on the Educare building, and things went pretty well. That was with a different contractor. That was Sampson out of Lincoln. But normally I like to try and, you know, get a set of plans, you know, put together and, you know, bid a lump sum amount like we're doing on these other projects. This one was, at the time, we were told that monies needed to be spent, you know, within this coming fiscal year, and that was the reason that we proceeded with the design build type process. The contract's available, and I've reviewed it. If you want to have legal counsel review it, it's a standard AIA or American Institute of Architects agreement, requesting approval subject to review on their contract.
So you're asking approval for 1.8 or 1.3?
It's 1.18, I think is what it is. 1.18, yeah. I think the total project is around 1.3. We've got the architect's contract's already been approved.
I thought we approved the contract.
You approved moving forward with them based on their proposal. We had 3 proposals. We had a proposal from HCI Construction, from L&L Builders, and from Global Engineering out of South Sioux. And you approved the selection of HCI for the project, but we've never approved a contract with them. And it kind of goes back to what I was explaining about the design build process. That's why the contract comes in afterwards, after there's a guaranteed maximum price in that contract. And in order for the contract to be completed, it has to have that guaranteed maximum price. And the plans, the architect's been working on the project, and he's got the plans far enough along to where they have subcontract bids for all the components of the project now. So it seems kind of odd, but this is how the design build process works. The contract is not, it's not ready to go like right at the, because it's guaranteed maximum price design build contract. Maybe I'm not explaining it very well, Alan. If you got any input
On the
you've been
design
around
build
contracting
process?
with.
On the design build process?
Yeah. Because we have, what it is, it's a guaranteed maximum price. It's without any written change orders, they cannot exceed that guaranteed maximum price. And in order for them to come up with that guaranteed maximum not to exceed price, they have to have bids from all their subcontractors. In order for their subcontractors to put bids to HCI as a subcontractor, as a component to the project, there has to be adequate information that the architect and the mechanical and electrical engineers have just completed in the last month or so. So that's why it's kind of a backwards way of doing things, and I don't really like them. But
Generally, the design build, I'll say that, generally design build projects is to make it go faster.
yeah, that's the sole intent. It's usually make it go faster. It doesn't necessarily cost more, but when we can have a complete set of plans together and bid it, normally that's better. And that's what we're gonna talk about the halfway house project here in a little bit, and we'll show you the contrast, or describe the contrast between the two methods.
So, I follow what you're saying on that process. And then you mentioned change orders. And then right away, before that still even got here, somebody made a decision to change that. So
Or there was poor communication, I'm not sure, yeah.
Once you do your due diligence, we'll have a clear picture of how that went down. But nonetheless, I still wanna be clear that when we go into this, it's pretty clear. It's cut and dry on what we expect, and then the timeframes, that they're met and everybody's happy. So when it's said and done, we got a real nice facility to house that department so that they can continue to do the best work that they can possibly do in protecting our children. So, you know, just know that when we say this, we mean it.
I understand, yeah.
And so if it gets extended, that's not coming out of our pocket. You know, somebody's gonna pay for that. And it ain't gonna be us.
If we would have chose to go with a more traditional type of contracting on the human services project, what we would have done was we would have selected an architect, which is what we're gonna propose on the halfway house. So select an architect. The architect usually, you know, on $1 million project, $1.3 million project, you're probably gonna have at least 90 days of design time and probably another month of bidding and contract solicitation. So what we were trying to do was to, like last fall, was to try and expedite the process and try and get the foundation put in, get the demo done, and get as far as we can. I wish we could have got a little bit further. You know, these last 6 weeks, you know, the weather's not been very cooperative. But by doing the design build, we do have, the foundation is already in for the new building and the demolition is done already. So there has been some benefit to choosing the design build method. I was hoping we'd be a little bit further along, but the timeline to try and get the steel, you know, they ordered the steel, you know, just as soon as the architect had, you know, that part of the building designed. So there, you know, there has been some benefit to the design build process by getting the demos already done and the foundation for the expansions in. The building frame is ordered, supposed to be delivered, they said the first week of March. And what Roland's talking about, the change order, there definitely won't be a change order ad amount for any changes to that building frame if there's another post put in. There's not gonna be a dollar ad. If anything, we're gonna say you need to get a, you know, the freestanding rigid frame. If anything, there's not gonna be any additional monies paid for it, no.
Were they trying to save money on that?
I don't know.
Steel frame?
I just heard about it Friday, but Kelly, that's a good question, because that was my first thought also, is that by putting a frame in the middle, usually less steel in the free-span structure.
Well, we don't want a cheap building.
That just sounds like it was more of a safety concern.
Might have been a coordination, I don't know. But I'm guessing what he said. And if there's, it has to meet I think it's a 90 pound wind load and a 40 pound live load, like for snow loading. So I'm probably speaking out of turn by saying it, but possibly they lightened it up and put a post in the middle. As long as it still meets those code requirements, and that post is not at a location where it's restrictive from any of the operations of the building, just from a time standpoint, I'm gonna look at it. But Coley, the way that the design build works also is if there's a savings, you know, we've met with them several times and looked at, you know, where we can save money. That was one that did not come up, it wasn't discussed. But when there is monies to be saved, it's saved by us, because all of their expenses are on the table for us to look at. They've sent me copies of every bid from every subcontractor that they have, you know, the multiple bids on different parts of the project. So the design build process is it's an open book, transparent process. So HCI has not been trying to do anything that they're trying to benefit and we're not. They're trying to keep, actually working with us trying to keep it in budget. So by having that post in there, HCI is not gonna benefit because we're gonna get a copy I think I already have a copy of that invoice on that. That's a good question. So I guess what I'm asking for is just approval to proceed with the guaranteed maximum price contract that, you know, which is what we've been, nothing's changed. I mean, we're moving along in the manner that was proposed. They have everything put together now and have a contract presented to us. I don't have it with me, or I can go get it if you guys want me to. It's a standard AIA contract. It's a guaranteed maximum price, not to exceed.
Okay, is there a motion to request?
I move it, Mr. Chairman.
Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
No, Mel, already second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 8-0. Okay, we need to do that, we'll refer to Sheila.
Okay. And I understand the apprehension because it's not normally how we do contracts. But that's how design build works, is, you know, you approve the contractor and then the architect, you know, he puts, keep going, all right. Okay, this is a project that Kenny mentioned, the new paving project that the Nebraska Department of Roads is doing. I'm not sure what the bid date is. We do have a meeting with Nebraska Department of Roads on March 19th, and it's the annual meeting that the state puts together for all 4 of the Nebraska tribes and the counties, Knox, Thurston, yeah, it'd be just Knox and Thurston, I guess, would be the counties that show up. And this, I think you were up there last year, Frank. The state brings 15 people up there probably. They bring, you know, a lot of their design staff and, you know, their administrative people from Lincoln come up. The District 3 people come over from Norfolk, and usually there's some representation from the maintenance staff out of South Sioux. That's usually a good meeting. The last several years, you know, we've had a couple of council members that have come up, and I think that, you know, chairman's come up, and it gets kind of long. But if some council members wanted to show up, like maybe in the afternoon or something like that, and sit in on part of it, it's pretty good information. And I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, you know, the project that's coming through Winnebago. It's almost a $7 million project, and you know, it's new paving from basically from where the new paving starts down at the fire station all the way to the Dollar General, and it includes another roundabout. The roundabout that we're getting up here, I think it's a 25-foot. It's a little bit bigger than the one that's down there. Not a lot. I think it's a 25-foot diameter increase in size, which will help some. So we're full speed ahead on that project, and if anybody's interested, on March 19th is the meeting up at the Marina Inn, or whatever Marina Inn's called now. The one project that the halfway house project, I know Alan wanted to talk about that, and I guess I'd like to jump through a couple other ones first, and then come back to that if you got a minute. Let's see, Winnebago Tribe Senior Emergency House Projects. We've got, there's a list of, probably, I haven't seen the list in the last week or so, but there's probably eight or 10 people that are on there. And we've got, some contractors working on some of those projects right now. We don't have a housing authority director that administers those, and I think Joe's working to try and get that position filled. So it'll be great when we get that filled. Right now it hasn't been, everybody's got other things that are, they're trying to keep up the, keep things moving on that, but it's been kind of a challenge. The Bureau of Indian Affairs Reservation Roads Project, I mentioned a few projects on there, but I guess what I'd like to do is sometime at a later date, maybe in the next month or so, would be to sit down with the council just at a special meeting and to go through the prioritization of each one of those projects and resubmit it to the VIA as they call it a TIP. It's a Transportation Improvement Plan, which is a prioritization of our roads projects based, on the monies that we have and monies that we have coming in. We have, I know there's an emphasis to try and create additional housing sites now. So I think, that's something that needs to be, taken into consideration. But if it's okay, I'm gonna jump past that and I'll try and set up a meeting in the next few weeks to, just for tribal roads. And tomorrow morning, Frank, at 9 o'clock, I think Brenda Redwing, remember that email that was from last week? Tom Kroyman is no longer the regional roads engineer up in Aberdeen, and Brenda Redwing is his replacement. And she just started 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think she's from Minnesota originally. She worked out of Aberdeen for a while, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, because she was down here on a couple projects that she worked on when she was younger. We were all younger, I guess, maybe 15 years ago. But she applied for that job a while back, and I know there was some litigation involved in it, and she now is she's as qualified as anybody. She's the district or the regional roads engineer, and she wanted to do kind of a getting to know us type conference call before she can come down here, and she'll be down here on March 19th also up in South Sioux. But I think she wanted to do just maybe a half an hour or something tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know, Chairman, if you want to do that down here or if you want to do it in your office or right here. So 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going to talk to Brenda Redwing. I'd asked her if she was interested, or if she was related to some of the Red Wings up in Santee, and she said that those are her cousins, I think. So I know, like Henry and Stewart's on the council up there, I think, and Delbert was their dad. I remember he was a friend of my dad's. Other projects. The first one is request for an update on our Winnebago building code requirements. And if you go to the next sheet, you'll see it's a brief list of building codes that the state of Nebraska has, all their current codes with the state of Nebraska. And what I've done is, we've adopted building codes in the past and we've updated them before. It's been a few years since we've done it. But there's so many codes, and just the continual updating, keeping the codes current is probably above my knowledge, when we should be updating. We kind of leave that up to the architects a lot of times. And what I think we need to have, a continual updating process, that we don't have to, every time a mechanical code changes or a life safety code changes, we don't have to take action on that. And I've talked to, like Kent Zimmerman and Joe Conley are the two building inspectors up in South Sioux. I talked to those guys, and I talked to several architects that we work with, and what they recommended that we do is to follow the state of Nebraska building codes. And, you know, there's probably gonna be some times where, you know, maybe an architect would recommend that we, you know, we're more lapse, we go back 4 years on one, or we move up ahead on another one, especially with the electric code. You know, this, I think the Nebraska has adopted the 2017 National Electric Code, and that's one that's, you know, there's maybe controversy is not the right word, but there's, you know, there's some of the residential items on there that, you know, that run the cost up. But right now, on all the new housing that HCI does, we require a state permit for any new homes. So any new homes that they do, they have to pull their electrician has to pull a state permit on it, and he has to comply with the 2017 National Electric Code. And HCI is doing that. You know, after we had that house burned down up at Ho-Chunk Village 2 years ago, we had asked if the state could get involved, and I think that was approved. It's been quite a while ago, and I think it's a good idea, because he comes in and he inspects the service to it, the electric service to it, and then he comes back and he inspects the rough in after it's all wired. You know, all the wires are in, it's roughed in before any sheetrock goes in, and then the state electrical inspector comes back and he inspects after it's all the breakers and everything in and it's operational. So he inspects at 3 different times as part of that permit. And I think it costs, I don't know, it's $300 or $400, I think is what they said it added to the cost of the house. But I think it's money well spent, because, you know, that's more life safety related issue. So I guess what I'm requesting is approval to adopt the state of Nebraska building codes. And what I would do, I think I probably need to request approval to provide public notice, for 30-day public notice on these. I would do public notice, and then we would have a public hearing after the 30-day public notice, and we'll do a hearing, and then I would come back to you guys with any questions or anything from the public hearing, and request adoption or changes to it at that time. So at this time, what I'm requesting is approval to provide public notice for building codes updates to state of Nebraska standards. It would just be for the public notice.
Been motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion, second, discussion?
So if we commit to, like, say, the ADA, the American Disability Standards, then we gotta comply with that, correct?
For any new construction.
New construction.
Yeah.
So we're exempt from old construction?
We're exempt. I think that we're exempt from it. I need to get some clarification on that. You know, we have someone from we had a life safety officer come up here about 2 years ago, and he walked a lot of our buildings, and he pointed out, you know, several items that are not in compliance with current ADA standards, and there's plenty. And he just said there's no mandate. He said we can strongly encourage it, is the only thing we can do. So there's not a mandate or anything like that that says we have to get it done. You know, I think at the time, you know, there was discussion, and I think Keith Chamberlain was, you know, one of the main people. You know, he was, you know, in a wheelchair, and that had requested that we do on now we would have to have, you know, automated doors on this building, for instance. You know, that was one of his high priorities, and I think it probably, you know, justifiably so. But I think it was I think at the time we had talked about, you know, maybe trying to put maybe $10,000 a year towards those improvements.
That's what I was wondering, you know, if we're committed to that, if we approve this. Because I know some of the newer properties out there, like the Warrior and like that out there, you know, I was told by the manager that they're not ADA.
In Ho-Chunk Village, or?
Yeah, they're not ADA compliant.
Yeah, I know.
He said he's not gonna say nothing because he works there, but has to come from some outside source to say it's not compliant. So
Probably
that being said, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if we approve this, which is good, it depends on where you sit. If you're in a wheelchair, well, it affects you, you know. So those kind of things, are we prepared to correct and make it where it should be?
Two of the newer buildings that we've done would be like the WIC building down there. You know, just down by the fire station, and the Educare building. You know, hospital obviously too, but you know, those have automatic operators on the doors. You know, those are kind of spendy, and you know, that's probably, you know, just off the top of my head, you know, maybe what would not be compliant on some buildings up at Ho-Chunk Village.
Yeah, it just depends if they offer that.
But this would be going forward from the time of adoption.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 8-0. You still there, Jory?
Yes, I'm still here, but I'm just about to go parking garage, so I think, once I park, then I'll probably hang up.
Okay.
Thanks, Tori. Okay, then I got two action items left. This one is a project that I've run by Alan, and if you see these sheets, the one on the requesting approval for bid to HCI for earthwork for Ho-Chunk Village 2.0, you can see that what I did is I went through. They had a little bid schedule put together, which just with these 6 bid items on it, which is part of their plans. And I went through it, and I've got a pretty good idea, you know, where these prices are supposed to be at. And I put this bid together, unofficially took it up to HCI, because I think HCI Construction's kind of in charge of this. And I took a unofficial bid up to them for $449,655. And they said they were, I sent out an email, I think I maybe copied you guys on that email. I sent out an email, you know, basically, you know, kind of saying that our Travel Roads Department has done every major earth project down here for the last 20+ years. And we don't have all the equipment that we need. We don't have the equipment that we had 10 years ago, like when we did the Kelly property or the Thunderwave project. You know, that's been over 15 years ago probably. You know, we had 3 big scrapers, and I think we may have rented one at the time. You know, we had a lot of equipment at that time. We don't have that much equipment anymore. A lot of that stuff was old, and we've got rid of some of it. But on some of the other projects like we did, you know, like the hospital project, and when we did the grading for Ho-Chunk Village, you know, the existing Ho-Chunk Village project, we rented, I think it was either 1 or 2 scrapers on that project. But I took this bid up to them for $449,000. And what I was told is that they had a bid from another contract. They had 4 other bids, and ours was the second to the low bid. They had another
Roads
bid.
Department?
Roads Department was, this bid of $449 was second low. The low bid was for, I think, $350,000 was the low bid. And that's a really low ball. Is from a reputable contractor out of Waltail, is Cooney's out of Waltail, and they're a reputable contractor. And what, our discussion went from, you know, he told us what the low bid was, and, you know, it was like $100,000 below us. And I had asked Keith from HCI what the engineer's estimate was, or if there was an engineer's estimate, and what it was. And he had said the engineer's estimate was 420-some-thousand. And the funding source is tax credit dollars, which actually gives, I guess this is my opinion, and I think it's true, it gives them a little bit more flexibility on the award of the project, to where there's not federal dollars, to where they have some flexibility on the award. And what Keith told me is, he said that, you know, he said that's a lot of money to, you know, to give up if they awarded it to us when they've got another bid for $100,000 less. And then we went to talk about what the engineer's estimate was, and, you know, basically a justifiable number, and it was like 426. And what I was told was that he thought if we could get our number down a little bit, down too close to that engineer's estimate, down around 420 or 426, that they thought we could maybe do business with them.
Ron, you can make that happen.
You 8 can make that happen.
I won't support nothing but the roads department
Well,
getting that project.
And they know that. So what I'm asking for you guys is approval for me to submit a formal bid on, you know, behalf of roads department, you know, with your guys' approval.
I would move that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
It's just a brainer, man.
But the dollar amount was what's probably gonna be the second, you know, the second part.
Motion and second.
You can make it happen.
Discussion? Okay. We have a situation with HCI and some of his subsidiaries that, you know, when it pertain to tribal activities. Well, take the leases, for example. If the farmer came in at a dollar amount, then their subsidiary Ho Chunk Farms would get the same thing. So they would get preference over that. Now, this is a tribal program, and I would think that, you know, whatever the dollar amounts, if the bidder, the high bid came in at 500,000, you know, we should be able to do it at that amount. That's my thinking on this. But there's been a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Frank, I just have a comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that, you know, we really try to give consideration to HCI construction, and I just hope that that same consideration can be given to our roads department. Thanks.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0.
For what dollar amount? 440, this dollar, 449?
You work it out.
Okay. I guess what my concern is that, you know, we're trying to do everything we can to try and accommodate additional housing out there. And if, you know, I did a breakdown, you know, of the costs, you know, proposed costs, and I think I was pretty pretty generous on the expenses. So, you know, they could wind up with $200,000 worth of expenses, and I'm guessing it will probably be less than that, because I've got, you know, some $35,000 for contingency and $25,000 from repairs. So I think the $200,000 for expenses is relatively generous, unless something serious happens, and we've done these projects before. I think, you know, our numbers are pretty good. I guess what I was gonna propose to do was to perform the work for what the engineer's estimate was, which was, I think, $426. And I guess it just, you know, maybe that's, there. 449. Okay, and the second to the last item I have is, we have an approved solar panel project for this building, for actually to go on top of the gym, for solar panels up on top of the gym. And I know that the solar panels that are going up on buildings nowadays are, they're pretty lightweight. I think they, from what I'm told, they're around 3 or 4 pounds, you know, per square foot. You know, for each square foot is around 3 or 4 pounds is what it adds to the total loading of that roof. And most buildings have the capacity to withstand another 3 or 4 pounds of live load. On the event center building over at the casino, I talked to the contractor and the structural engineer that designed that building, and that building, you know, especially with that's got a 412 slope on it, so you don't really have a lot of snow loads that would be, you know, that would supplement, you know, this additional live load to be concerned with on that building over there. This building, I have no reason to believe that it's gonna fall down, but, you know, this building was built in 69 or 70, you know, it's a 50-year-old building. 50-year-old building, we've had roof leaks on it, and I guess what I'm concerned with is that if we don't have someone take some responsibility, you know, do a study of that, and basically accept the responsibility that if something were to happen, you know, it could be, you know, you have to look at worst case scenario, you know, for any, you know, catastrophic event. It could be real serious if something happened up there, and it would be like we've got a big ice storm, and then that roof up there has got 3-foot parapets. It's got a parapet wall, you know, that's up above the roof that sticks up this high. So that roof does, you know, it holds snow and it would hold ice. And
I remember when they first built this building back in the 70s, it was a asphalt roof with rock. So that's quite a bit heavier roof, and then we went to a rubber membrane roof. And then when we did that, the roof was actually raised up. So I'm pretty sure that the load of the added panels,
I'm pretty sure too,
would not hamper or affect the construction, because it was already designed for that heavy load. But you're the guy.
Well, I guess I think that every roof, especially something like this, you know, where it's an assembly type occupation, or assembly type building, that, you know, where there could be a lot of people in there, and if we've got, you know, a bunch of snow and ice up there, I don't think it's not gonna cost, and I've talked to Robert about this, you know, when he brought this around the first time. I said, we need to have someone go up and take a look at it. Cause I've got the original plans, and I scanned them, and I sent them to him, and he said that he was going to send them to the solar panel distributor or fabricator, and they were going to do an evaluation. Well, that's not how it should be. I mean, the person that's selling the solar panels should not be doing a evaluation of the capacity of a roof. And especially from, I think it was Washington State, I think is where it was. They were just gonna evaluate the plans. Somebody needs to go in there and take a good look at it to see if there's any members that are, you know, that are cracked or anything like that, or if any of the roof leaks that we've had over the years have compromised it. And I guess that's what concerns me, is that I think that this should be part of their process before, you know, I know when they're putting them on new metal buildings, you know, it's probably not such an issue, but when you're putting solar panels on a 50-year-old building with wood trusses, I think it needs a thorough evaluation of it. And I guess that's what I'm asking, if you guys agree with me, and if you do, I think there should be, it should be inspected.
Yeah, I make a motion that we do that.
Do what?
Have that inspection, whoever that would be.
Blackhawk Center Gymnasium roof structure reviewed and inspected by a Nebraska licensed structural engineer, and provide a written approval from the engineer bearing engineer's seal and signature prior to the.
Second it.
Oh.
Discussion.
Okay, who seconded it, Kenny or Louis?
Louis.
A motion, second, discussion?
What about our insurance people? Would that be a factor?
Hell yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, would that be included in that?
I think that's some justification.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Coley, the way that I kinda wrote it here, maybe, it might be, but. And I don't have any reason to believe that the roof's gonna cave in, but when you put it on that style of a roof, especially with the parapets all the way around it, you know, there's gonna be some snow load, you know, and you guys remember when we were kids, there used to be a lot more snow. And I know we got some snow now, but if we go back to those days where we got some big, heavy, wet snows up there, I think there's potential for.
Is that okay, amending that motion for his insurance? Or does that cover it?
I think that just would be a supplement to it, probably.
Yeah.
Or concern.
Okay, Louis? Supplement to that motion.
Just with
the insurance.
Concerns.
Robert's a salesman, thinks, yeah.
Yeah. And Robert knows his stuff. I'm not against Robert, and I'm certainly not against putting solar panels up there. I like to see them on every building we have down here. But I think this is an exception. I think it's something we need to take precaution.
Okay, there's been a motion, second with amendments. No other discussion? Any objections? No objections, you still there, Jory?
Yes, I'm still there.
No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Okay, Rob.
Okay,
Thank you.
The last project that I wanted to talk about.
We moved the house on here.
I'm going back.
We jumped over the halfway house.
Halfway house project. Winnebago Tri has been working on replacement for the existing halfway house building for the past several years. We have submitted application for grants, including ICBG the past few years. This fall, Winnebago Tri was awarded $1 million from U.S. Department of Justice to assist with the replacement of the existing building. The building replacement project has been estimated at approximately $1.8 million. We have received statements of qualification from 6 architectural firms interested in the project. Tri may want to consider this high enough a priority to move forward with the design while funding collection efforts are ongoing. And what we've done so far is, we had, proposals and statements of qualifications from 6 architectural firms. And the one that's been working with us has, he did the original drawing for the project, or the conceptual drawing and cost estimate, probably 4 years ago, when we did a ICDBG application. And I think we paid him like $1,200 at that time, and I think 8 months ago, we paid him $1,000 or something like that to update all the costs. And what he's done is he updated the drawings. You know, he participated in, you know, the meetings with the program staff, and, you know, he came up with conceptual drawings that would accommodate their needs and fit on that site. And then he also put it must be like a 7 or 8 page, you know, a real detailed cost estimate to come up with the $1.8 million. And we reviewed we reviewed and scored all 6 of the proposals from A&Es, and the architect that we had been working with is our RML Architects, is the one that we thought probably would be the most cost effective. They're out of Sioux City. They've been in business for, I don't know, over 30 years since I've been around here. And that was the committee made the selection of RML Architects as the preferred architect. What we'd like to do, or how I envision it, would be, we would be better off, instead of going through the design build, would be to get an architect on board. No contractor, just get an architect on board, have the architect put a complete set of design and bid documents together like we normally would do. It's more of the traditional way. You know, get a complete set of bid documents together, and then you can bid it whenever you want to, but basically have the project shelf ready. And if you want to move, you know, right into the project once the plans are done, the plans will probably take 3 or 4 months. He submitted a proposal, and it's an AIA. Alan's probably got a copy of it there. That if you guys want to move forward on the design, we think that would be the best option.
So we're asking for approval of the architectural contract with RML for the halfway house project. I've looked it over, it's standard contract.
It's a standard AIA contract. Yeah.
We would still probably want legal approval of the contract, and then that gives us, on top of the action that we took this past Wednesday, we can start moving forward and getting this project moving. We just have to get all the documentation in with the grantor agency so that they can release the funds, and we can start spending the money for the architect, moving forward, getting this project ready, and then as soon as we're ready to go, we can get this thing replaced.
Ron, was it that brought before the council before? No.
Yeah, it was when we talked about it probably 6 weeks or so ago, after we had reviewed those proposals from the architects, and it was just tabled at that time. There was no action taken at that time, and Chairman, I think the issue was the $800,000, and
Yeah, I remember.
that's what it was. Yeah.
We tabled it pending fully, you know, getting the commitment from fully funding like we've done, and now that we're able to start spending the money, we need to execute the contract for the architect and start moving forward.
That's why we stopped at that time. You guys were gonna think about it and have, so.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna make the motion to go with
RML Architects
RML
out of Sioux City. approved contract.
Been a motion second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, was R&R the one that did the first original drawing?
RML.
Okay.
RML, yep.
I did.
Their office is up on, what is it, maybe 12th and Jackson. They've been up there for over 30 years, I know.
Okay, 22
That's
Douglas.
good, that's good.
Douglas, yeah.
There's been a motion second. Any further discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed, 8-0-0. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, is that all you have?
That was it.
That's a lot.
On that roads priority though, I'll try and get something set up and get a little more organized and
Okay.
get some information out to you guys. You can look at it. Maybe we can do a prioritization on how you wanna move forward. And
Sorry,
Yes,
what date is your testimony?
it is on the sixth.
You have a time?
It is I just decided twice, I think at 9:30 and 10, or 10:30, 10 and 10:30, I back to back, one for NHC, one for the tribe. I'll find the link and make sure I send it.
Yeah, email it to all of us.
Okay.
Have a question back there?
Yeah, I thought Ron was gonna jump back to the underground work, and it's no complaints.
Joe, can you come over to the mic, sorry?
It was just, I just wanna put a bug in somebody's ear, you know, do you guys know you have a Winnebago owned underground utility company, or native tribe? Tribal member owned. Anyway, they're out of Lexington, Elwood, Nebraska. I've informed Ron of it a couple years ago. It happens to be my sister. They do water mains, sewer mains, fiber optics, horizontal boring. But I don't think to this day they've ever been contacted for a bid. I just want to put it in your guys' ear, or
What's
refreshment.
the company's name?
Underground Solutions?
Underground Solutions?
Yeah.
Joe, can you bring me any more information, like phone numbers, and I'll get it up to IHS, and IHS, on all of our IHS projects, IHS contacts the company.
Okay. Yeah, no,
I'll get it on the list.
I thought you was gonna go back to it. I didn't wanna jump out of it.
No, not at all. If you can bring me that, bring it up to my office, we'll call in-house service while you're up there, we'll get it on the list. Most, I think when we talked about it before, we were gonna do, it was some directional bore for a small line, I think.
Yeah, that drain or
Yeah,
something.
yep. And I think the way IHS does it is that you, on $100,000 and less, there's no payment performance bond. On projects over $100,000, they're gonna have to do so just so they know, they're gonna have to do a payment performance bond, most of the projects we're talking about here, so.
Yeah,
Just so they know.
they've done like the whole city, water mains and stuff for Bird City, Kansas,
So they know what
Baird,
that is.
Nebraska, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get them on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, Ron.
Go before I think of something else.
Yeah, you've been, I think you got the record.
Yeah, thank you.
Good update.
Thank you.
Old business done, tribal council items, CS, Terry Medina, Brotherhood basketball team. Who's got that?
Oh, I
Is
guess,
yours?
yeah, I guess I'm the only one not working, so. I was notified of this last night. Everybody's got, things on their agenda. Asked if I could step in and, I guess I submitted paperwork to you guys. Here's a breakdown of the budget, asking for matching funds. They hold a tournament usually in April, and the money from that, plus food sales and fundraisers throughout the year. They're asking for $2,500 matching funds. The tournament's in Henrietta, Oklahoma. We have a list of students that are going. Last year I went with them, and I don't think we've had, that I heard of, we didn't have any complaints. Actually, we got a few compliments. The boys are well mannered. From the motel we stayed at, we didn't have any complaints. And then they have an entry, copy of the entry fee here, copy of the flyer. I believe Terry Medina, Monica Flores, myself, John Smith, and possible one more that are gonna be going in chaperone.
Joe, I'm all for it, and I'm gonna support it, but I need to know that matching funds, how that works out. If they show 2,500 as matching, so does that mean we have to come up with 2,500?
Yes, that's what they're asking for, yeah.
And I don't know if that's consistent with the way we do it. My understanding was that we match up to 2,500. So if they would have put in 1,250, we would have to come up with 1,250 to take it to 2,500. That's my understanding. Now, I may be wrong.
That's how I understood it.
But if you wanna go with what's presented, I'm gonna support it. But I'm just explaining it for further purposes. I believe it's a good thing for kids.
Yeah, it's a good thing for the kids, and, you know, gets them out. A little more aspect of more than just basketball here on this reservation, you know, introduces them to people, different levels of competition. You know, I didn't write the budget, but I mean, you know, they got it down to the you know, from the rooms, the food, the entry fee, you know, stuff like that. So, I'm not the one that did the numbers.
It says pending request from the alcohol program, use of vans. Is that
Yeah, they're.
contingent upon what we do here, or you got those vans in?
As of right now, no, they're still waiting on an answer.
Just get a couple of those maybe.
The alcohol program in the past has provided a van for them.
Okay.
Provided they had proper licensed drivers and that kind of stuff. I know they've done that before.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to talk to Terry in my office and regarding this request. He said they did raise the money, they have the money. So I asked him how they raised it or anything, but they do have that. So in their opinion, his opinion, is matching that 2,500, which would total $5,000.
To my knowledge, yes.
That's what he had said, yeah.
Well, we're 2,500 before.
I don't know what the other would go for, I don't know.
You boys to, for the boys and coaches. You see that on here, so that could help cover that cost. Championship ring.
I have another comment. I see where we spend a lot of money on training kids to camp and stuff like that, to try to improve. I think it's important, but they ought to get us a written report about what happened. And we could put that information into the Winnebago Indian News. So that they ought to have a, the way I understand it, document that's ready to be printed and published. And we did a written report, because that lets the tribal people know where their money went. It would be difficult to do a news report. They could drag themselves up.
That's in the matching funds policy. And there's policy.
Joe, the total expense for the trip is at 2,500.
And honestly, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
What you have here is the estimated cost. And normally, when there's some of the organizations that come in, they give us information on how they generated, you know, the other funds. If they generated $2,000, they tell us how they did that, then we match that.
Right. Well, all I know is.
It appears that, you know, the total expense for the trip is 2,500.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't answer you that.
You going down there, Jim? Jim?
Oh, you drive?
Going down there?
But yeah, that, I mean,
You got your name on it.
that's what it looks like to me, the total trip is 25. Reading this.
So that would mean that our matching would be $1,250.
That's what it, yeah, according to this. Now, I would know what I'm talking about.
I'd like to be more clear of where, what we actually, supporting, 25 or 1250.
Yeah, we don't know that.
That's what I don't understand.
Right, right.
What do they need to have the entry fees in?
March 8th.
Oh, yeah.
I would, I mean, if I can speak on behalf of Brotherhood, I would like to go by this. I mean, this is showing, says budget for Brotherhood High School Boys Basketball Tournament, Henrietta, Oklahoma, and the total is 25. So we're asking for matching funds. The way it looks here to me, and I work a lot with numbers, is we're asking to get it to 25. So that would be 1250. 1250 matching.
They're asking to get to 2,500?
Yeah.
Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
So, in other words.
So, cause this is the total budget, you know, this.
So in other words, they're asking for
For
12,
1250.
it appears. Mr. Chairman, if that's the case, I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
the amount of,
$12.50.
then motion second to approve Brotherhood basketball team request, matching funds in the amount of $12.50. Discussion. Any objections? You still there, Joey? Call for vote. In favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yes, no? 1 abstention? 1. Motion passed 5-1-1.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the request to attend the MMMPC meeting in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Second.
Been motion, second, discussion. Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0.
Reimbursement.
Make a note, reimbursement. Number 3. Joey Johnson.
The Preservation Office has presented to the Planning Office last week that they wanted to pursue a NAGPRA grant. I talked about it earlier and wanted to pursue putting proposals to.
Which grant?
The NAGPRA Inventory of Winnebago Cultural Materials. They came back to us and decided the application was a little more than they wanted to take on, and so we took that on last week. And in finalizing the budget, we were able to review their numbers and present to you today presentation for them to move forward on that work. That will provide 75% of the museum person's salary. I believe those funds are currently being covered under appropriations. And so this will allow this individual to focus on reviewing materials at museums in at least 3, if not 4 different locations, identifying whether or not they're things that we'll want to bring back, that type of thing. And from there, we'll be able to put together a plan for them to repatriate whatever items are appropriate. And so this is a 2-year project.
Okay, no matching requirement.
Correct.
Okay, is this for another position for Randy or for Randy?
This is for a different, this is the position that Ben.
Made a motion, is there a second?
Oh, I didn't hear no motion.
I made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Resolution number.
1978.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion, second to adopt resolution 1978. Discussion. Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0.
Thank you.
Joy, before you leave, Council, or Chairman, can I say something?
Sure.
It's getting late every time for the submission of these grants here.
Yes.
Can we approve on that?
This one, we would have been working on it sooner, but when it was presented to us to move forward and take the responsibility on it, we moved forward and put it together as quickly as we could. And it's actually due at the end of this week, so.
So it's somebody else's fault then.
Well, it's still coming through, and I don't wanna be telling people no that we're not going to do a plan if we can
Me,
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, no other items on the agenda, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
At what, 2:35?
Well, wanna keep going? Is there a second?
Second.
Hey, you have a
Put me in the books. Put myself in the books. Motion.
10:78. We're adjourned at 11:55. Just